Good afternoon to everyone present. I want to actually start this session by congratulating you, Mr. Shaji. I don't know if you remember, but almost a year ago at GFF, at the main stage on a similar fireside chat, you had said that, this Global FinTech Fest is a great forum for all fintechs, incumbents, everyone to come together and a great platform. And that we should ideally create something similar for rural. And today, when I was sitting in this room, when the inaugural address was going on, that same feeling where everyone associated with rural, whether it is, the startups, the NGOs, the policymakers, everyone under this roof gave me exactly that same feeling. And even in the very first year of this summit. So many, many congratulations to you and the entire team for pulling this together. I'm sure there is many more to come, and just the way people now hoard up their launches before GFF कि GFF आने वाला है, तो now we launch it then. This will be a summit where everyone from rural will always look forward to coming here. So maybe I'll start with the first question again, going back to the inaugural address. And one of the things that the Deputy CM said is that there seems to be a secret sauce around NABARD. I'm sure everyone in the room is curious to understand, and I know you have made a lot of shifts in how NABARD works, how it's perceived. So we would all be very curious to understand what's the secret sauce.
Yeah, so thank you. This Earth Summit itself is born out of the vision, as you said. It has come a full circle. When I saw that GFF is meant for mostly urban focused, or maybe those problems which are commercially viable, which can be solved. But rural, though it is commercially viable, the visibility of those problems and solutions, of course, there were a lot of applications of whatever they have developed for the urban counterparts to be to be done here. But then rural lacks often the visibility. So we have to keep the rural into the center stage, and that is one aspect which we thought, and that is where we thought of this Earth Summit to come in, so that whatever applications we are developing, and then the solutions which the rural sector need to be presented to those who are innovators, and then they need a platform, and that is where NABARD comes in. And the secret sauce, as you told, will be that everything should be now is boiling down to data. Whatever we do, as we speak also, we are creating a lot of data. So that data need to be stored in a manner in which it can be retrieved wherever possible, in a manner in which it has to be retrieved, and maybe some massaging here and there, so that these can be used for creating solutions. And in that count, what we thought is that NABARD itself should be moving to a data-driven organizations. We had a lot of data. We used to store it in maybe in physical files, maybe in PDFs and Excel, which we thought as digital, but it's not really digital. So that is one thing. Within NABARD, the transformation to a data-driven, rather than just be a refinancier or a funder, we have a role of ecosystem building. So that for that, NABARD need to be a data-driven organization, and then working with all the partners. We alone can't develop solutions. We can create an ecosystem. Being a sovereign-backed entity, we have the financial muscle to create this whatever ecosystem we need to create, and we are not even business-focused. But the sustainability is one thing which we need to, even though it may not generate business for NABARD, but for the ecosystem, there need to be sustainability for whatever we are doing. And that is where we thought about this transformation within NABARD and also outside NABARD. Now we are partnering with institutions which are often neglected and don't have visibility, and many people outside those institutions may not believe that these institutions have the wherewithal to create the rural transformation. So digitizing the secret sauce of all the activities which we do, and also partnering with the ecosystem. And then what we thought is that rural India, even though in the urban counterparts they have a lot of solutions for credit, because credit-led growth is one important philosophy which NABARD also believes. But the applications which we develop in the urban areas, rural areas also desire for those applications. And they also, see, as rural areas develop, the desire or the aspirations of the rural people are almost same as that of urban people. In fact, nowadays, many of the urban people would like to come back to rural areas, be there considering the atmosphere or the clean air which we are talking about. And then the digital capabilities in India, within India and elsewhere have developed so much that no, there is no need for anybody to station in an urban area. So in that count also, we need to now make institutions capable of meeting those aspirations, and that is where no, we are here. We are now keeping an ecosystem, developing an ecosystem, and then partnering with any entity who is ready to go delve deep into the solutions and create a business out of it. And we will try to make them, a lot of the risks which they may feel, we'll try to ring fence them with the ecosystem or the digital rails which we are building, so that they can be sure about what they want to do. I think that's a technical issue.
Some digital over
Okay.
there. But I was going to say, just hearing you, right, it was almost like from soil to cloud. NABARD is everywhere in that sense. So you spoke about some of the digital interventions, and I did have a chance to actually go through the stall at NABARD as well. And some of this was also being played over in the videos, for example, on EKCC. And, that's a pioneering effort. There's a lot more that we are doing. Obviously, this still works within the larger ecosystem of the institutions, whether it's the PACs, the RRBs, the RCBs. What do you think are the larger needs of this ecosystem, particularly as we think about, lending 2.0, about a data-driven, decade? What do you think is required to actually for these banks to, and I know you're very passionate about saying they're not just going to match the other commercial banks, they're going to go ahead, next in class. What do you think is required there?
So I'll start with the last sentence you told. They are not going to match with the commercial banks. Yes, but then they need to lead the rural transformation, not by competing with commercial banks. Commercial banks can't bring in those transformations. That is one thing. Second thing is that no, the rural financial institutions, as part of the Government of India policy, is now getting center stage. Actually, they're being focused for transformations. We are speaking about large banks in India, amalgamation of public sector banks into large banks, world-class banks. That is very much needed because India's growth needs such large institutions with sufficient capital to take large exposures. So in the process, the middle layer and the lower layers should not be neglected. So that means that we can't burden the large banks with the need for the rural transformation which India badly want. There is a dual role they have to play. Right now, public sector banks were playing that role, but then they are now actually given responsibility for nation building in large activities. So that means the RFIs need to be refocused, and that is where the recent transformations in the rural financial institution space which is happening. I don't know, many of you would not have realized, it is by design, it is not by accident that RFIs are becoming larger or rather technology enabled. One is that when we talk about RFI, that is rural financial institution, the regional rural banks, with 22,000 branches, they are equivalent to the largest public sector bank in terms of reach. But technologically, they are not that sound. So Indian government thought about amalgamating that, making them bigger, and then come as a unified entity rather than being smaller entities having their own decisions, their own digital backbone and such other things. And that is where the one state, one RRB principle came in. And across the regional rural banks, now a common branding also has happened to give them a feel of being a large national level entity. That is one important optics which we have done. And we are backing it up. As NABARD, we are backing it up with technology enablements. We are now developing a central digital credit infrastructure for them as a loan origination and loan management system for regional rural banks. Along with that, and we are now digitizing the rural finance, agriculture finance, starting with KCC. We are now, you would have seen in our stall, the digital KCC and also the central digital credit infra which we are building. We are terming it as Gen Sedu for RRBs. So that is one important thing. So structurally, we are amalgamating and making them stronger. The largest of the RRB right now, it is at 2.2 lakh crore in terms of balance sheet size, which is equivalent to a mid-sized private or public sector bank or a bigger private sector bank. So that means these RFIs are not small. And as together they are catering to 300 million customers, and which is SBI is catering to around 550 million. So this is 300 million. So they are not small. Only thing is that they are more granular, and because rural India demands that granularity, so we to treat or rather to cater to the needs of this millions of customers, they need a lot proper digital infra, which individually they may not be able to do. That is where the collectivization comes in, and one size, and the economics of scale coming in. So, and then we look at the cooperatives thing, which is the other RFI. Cooperatives at the lower level, primary agriculture credit societies, which have been now written off, maybe in the last 5 years, people may think that they may not be able to be revived. Even a lot of data were pointing out to that. And now we have, along with Government of India, the new ministry is there, Ministry of Cooperation. So they are now reviving the cooperative entities and trying to position them as the credit unions. You know about credit unions in the US, neighborhood banks, which are technology enabled. And sitting here also, we can open an account in the credit union in the US. Similar to that, we need to station these cooperative entities, which are neighborhood banks. So for that, we are now undertaking the rural transformation, the digital transformation of primary agriculture credit societies, and linking them with the higher tier in the cooperative banking system. So that and along with that, we are trying to improve the governance. As we make them larger, I think governance is an important thing. Otherwise, they will now wilt under their own pressure of a lot of other interests coming in. Now, for supporting all these things, most important thing is that we as NABARD, as a development financial institution, we have to undergo transformation also. Because now, traditionally, we are being seen as a project lender, lending to government, which are all safe type of thing. Concessional funds coming in from Government of India through the private sector shortfall funds, and using that concessionality and the lending to state government is like, we can term it as in the banking parlance, we can term it as lazy banking. So where no risk is there, we are just passing on the funds. But now the real development aspect, we are a development finance institution, the development aspect has to come in. We were doing that in bits and pieces, but now we are doing it in a structured way, more digital way. And that is where we have activated this department of data management and business intelligence, right, and our strategy planning also for laying down the vision. So all these things. So the RFIs, we are now making them stronger, digitally enabling them. These two things are coming, both in cooperatives and RRBs. And then we also are undergoing transformation for supporting those. So these in a group, if you consider it, we are now working with Government of India to support the banking sector transformation which is happening. Larger transformation of large banks and the mid-sized banks as the regional banks, and then lower at the cooperative banking space. So as the banking sector evolved to support India's fast-growing economy, we should also support the rural and the smaller entities to ensure equity in development. And that is the larger nation-building role we are taking.
Right. So I'm going to pick on the part that you talked about digital enablement of RFIs. And, particularly we have seen that you've actually set up this entity, Sahakar Sarthi Private Limited, to actually look at the cooperative banks and to provide, a lot of digital services to them. We've seen some of this model work in other countries, but I think everyone knows that India is its own very unique, entity. What is your vision for this entity? What are you planning to achieve through this Sahakar Sarthi entity?
Okay. So Sahakar Sarthi, so we tend to take everything as digital solutions. It is not merely an IT project. It is actually a transformative project which IT plays a larger role, but then, India needs its own solution, as you rightly told. Whatever solutions elsewhere is there, we need to customize it for suiting the Indian condition. On that count, I feel Sahakar Sarathi not as merely an IT project, but it is a rural transformation project, which is actually helping close to 130 million customers of the cooperative bank. Cooperative banking system, you all know, there's in a varied structure, three-tier structure. The lowest tier, which is the weakest link, which is now getting, as I said earlier, through digital transformation under a central government project of PAX computerization. Cooperative banks, though they were digitized, they have a CBS, but when we did the survey, we found that even with those digitizations, less than 35% has mobile banking. UPI, nobody is using. Without these things, they can't, in the current age, they can't be called as banks.
Right.
So in that count, we thought individually smaller banks with, say, 50 branches to 300 branches, they may not be able to invest. And that is where German model and such other models were in handy for us. We, in fact, our team visited those models. And then we came out with the idea of Sahakar Sarathi, which I am not calling as a shared service entity. It's a global capability center type of GCC for cooperatives, or even we can expand it to rural financial institutions, not necessarily government backed, others also. There are a lot of spin-off benefits on this. So here, what we intend is that, see, instead of every bank doing its own bit of investment, and then we tend to believe that every rural area may have its own journey of a credit-led growth, but we can more or less standardize many of these journeys across India, because people's aspirations are the same. Maybe tweaking here and there, that journey we can digitize it in a more economical way, rather than individually every bank trying in their own wisdom. They may do it, and they may do it right or wrong. So that is where this back office is coming. The GCC is coming to help actually guide all these smaller entities on the most efficient way of dealing with people. I'm not telling about credit alone. As I said earlier, the governance part is there, the processes part is there, how they deal with data. The data is very important. Also, their business decisions should be data-driven, rather than in sporadic manner somebody believes that this is the right way to go without any empirical evidence. If they move forward, they will tend to create problems, and that we have seen a lot of failures in cooperatives and all. So as we want rural India to develop to at least say 45% of the GDP should come to rural India. Right now it is around 25 to 30%, varying figures are there. But then these institutions need to be larger. And if they are becoming larger, then they need technology. That is one thing. Better governance. So Sahakar Sarathi, as I told, will be a game changer in terms of both technology as well as the governance and also processes.
Very helpful. We'll move to another one, which is NAB Ventures. And here, given it's a post-lunch session, I'll actually get the audience to participate.
Why can't you show that, Sahakar Sarathi, people can go about that, the QR code?
Yes, so sir, what we can do is actually get the teams to participate, given, Sahakar Sarathi is an important initiative. I think we will actually have a QR where,
so we'll invite those who are interested to work with us. That is one thing. Then those who can collaborate with us. There are innovators over here. This Sahakar Sarathi, we are positioning it as a startup. We have just received the startup registration as well. And then with being NABARD backed, that is sovereign backed, that means a platform will be available for any of the innovators over here. If you have a solution to the rural problem, you can come collaborate with us. Or if you have the necessary wherewithal to work with us, you can join as a staff of Sahakar Sarathi. I invite both the sides of the people over here. You can just scan it and just join us. Yeah, go ahead.
And in case you do miss the QR code, as I understand, it's also there in the stall. No. So yes. There is a Sahakar Sarathi team which you can, visit as well. So I was going to actually also bring another quiz for the people here, given this is a post-lunch session. So the next question was on NAB Ventures, and I understand in the morning there was actually a video being played on the AgriSure Fund. So, and NABARD people can't answer here, but what is the size of the fund? Let's see if how many people So I'll maybe give 3 options, and people who think, if that size is correct, they can raise their hand. So how many think it's 250 crores?
Size of the fund. AgriSure fund.
Okay.
250.
How many think it's 500 crores? Okay, we have some hands here. How many think it's 750 crores? Looks like everyone was paying attention, sir.
No. How many think 1,000 crores? How many think it's 1,000 crores? You are there. Unfortunately, now it is 750 crores, but then we will aspire to make it 1,000 or even bigger.
I like the vision, sir, that we shouldn't just look at today, but that's the direction that we will go with each of these initiatives. But yes, AgriSure Fund being one thing, I think there's a lot of initiatives that NAB Ventures is, bringing, and we have a lot of people who can benefit from those initiatives. You want to talk a bit more about those, sir?
Yeah. So, venture assistance is one thing, essentially I treat it as a development financial part, where one of the functions should be to assist those innovative ideas to scale up as business. And that is where we thought of setting up it as a subsidiary to give more focused attention, that is NAB Ventures. The fund one was close to around 680 crores, which is now spanning across some around 20-25 investing companies. Many of these companies are here as well. Apart from this, we are also investing in from our balance sheet, from our proprietary balance sheet. We are actually investing in individual companies as well as in alternate investment funds. That is a different thing. But to give more focused attention for rural, when we invest in an AIF, we only will tell that 2x of that should be for rural. But then when we set up an AIF, that is NAB Ventures, then 100x of that, or rather 100% of that should be for rural, or whatever having implications on the rural, including the climate tech. And that is where the NAB Ventures idea has come. So that is on the investing part. So now, normally, any of the venture capital investor will look at a horizon of, say, 5 years, 7 years, and then they want an early exit. They are looking at the returns. Whereas being a sovereign-backed entity, we can be a little bit more patient. We can be the patient capital provider for those rural ventures. We understand that rural ventures may need a larger runway for creating wealth. So we are ready to be patient, and that is where the idea is there. But that doesn't mean that we will compromise on the quality. So that is the investment part. We have some of the investing companies are here. I can mention about Satyut Analytics. Why I'm mentioning about that is they are having unique idea of satellite-based a lot of decision makings, advisory services. I understand that they are now branching out to other across the world. They are now branching out. That is a good thing to happen. Indian innovations scaling globally. So now. Investing is one part. Second part is that we have to collaborate also. That is where our idea of the sandbox, rural tech collab is coming in, where we are inviting people to work with us. We will provide anonymized data or the sandbox facilities which you have. You can test your facilities, or your solutions there, and then if it is succeeding, scale up. Now, looking at the NAB Venture Fund 1, Government of India thought the success of that got into the Government of India, and then in the 2 years back, the budget announced about the AgriSure, which we are discussing about that. And AgriSure is focused primarily on agri-tech innovations, including maybe rural, but then it is more focused on agriculture, being piloted by the Department of Agriculture. But then we understand that rural India is not merely agriculture. The other side, the rural, whatever urban implications are there, that is there in rural areas as well. And that is where we are now coming out with the Fund 2 of NAB Ventures. We are in the drawing board of that. We sized it across around 1,000 crores, which I was telling, that 750 crores for agri-tech, AgriSure, but then that doesn't mean that we are limiting our investments to 100 or 750. We will be more ambitious. If you have more ideas, we are here to support you. And what we want is that we want to develop technology for Bharat. Bharat we understand as rural India, but then by Bharat also. What that means, the rural people who are at the receiving end of these issues should come out with ideas for solutions, and we are there to support you. So now, that is where the collab idea is coming. We will provide you the sandbox facilities and you can scale up. I think we have called for our request for proposals are now out. We will be partnering with and even RBI Innovation Hub in that. The RBI and then NPCI. NPCI, the UPI, you all know. The UPI democratized payments. Similar to that, we need to democratize credit. We need to democratize banking. All these things will happen through venture investments only. So here, for this to happen, we have to embed fintech within institutions rather than fintech as a standalone and then partnering with the institutions. We want these rural institutions itself to transform into fintech. So, as we say, banks may not be there, but banking will be there.
Yes.
And banks have to transform into fintechs, or fintechs will transform into banks. Either of these things happen. So, established players will be actually challenged by the new age new age companies with lower capital. They can even threaten a largest of the bank with finer technology. So that is where we need to embed fintech within rural institutions, and they should transform into fintech institutions rather than fintech being a standalone thing. That is where we are partnering with, as I said earlier, with RRBs have to transform into fintech. Cooperatives also need to transform into fintech. So we provide the ecosystem for this entity to perform.
And these type of collaborations.
Yes.
So I'll maybe move to the last two questions. The first one is more about trying to understand that there's a lot that NABARD has done, and there's a lot that you said in terms of technology, etc., which is also underway. But if you had to just pick two things, one, a big move and one quick win, because we're talking about lending 2.0. What would those things be? One which is the big move, and one quick win.
So big win is already there. We discussed more often. It is there here also.
Okay.
It's the Sahakar Sarathi, which is the GCC for cooperatives for now. We need to expand it for GCC for rural institutions, and maybe GCC for India as well. Because now, as I said earlier, established players can be threatened by a new entrant, a small entrant. We don't know whether a rural entity which is now enabled or supported by a GCC like Sahakar Sarathi can even threaten the largest of the institutions. So that is the big move which I have seen. But then the quick win as of now, what I feel is that digital rails for lending, which is available in the urban areas. Mm-hmm. The ambition of the rural people also is similar to that. So now rural finance, when we talk about, we'll talk about agriculture credit, or at the most some MSME credit at all. Right. But then consumption credit, personal loans, all these things are also ambition. As the rural prosperity comes in, as per capita income of the rural areas increases, they also have these aspirations. And to meet those aspirations, rural financial institutions need to transform. And that is where I see the quick win, which is now the digitizing the agri credit. We are starting with the KCC, right. The journey which we are doing, plus the central digital credit infra for RRBs and cooperatives which are coming in. So this will diversify the credit balance, the credit portfolio of the banks from now right now 80% or 70% of the portfolio is driven by either agriculture or self-help group loans, whereas ideally the balance sheet or the asset side of the rural financial institution should reflect the GDP composition. If agriculture is contributing 17% of GDP, the rural institutions also may have around 20 to 25% of their loans as agriculture, the remaining say 30% as MSME, and then remaining can be the housing loans. Those aspirations need to be built. For that, digital credit infra need to be there. So the quick win, I feel that the digitized agri credit, that is EKCC portal, which will be transforming it as single agriculture portal, plus the CDCI for other than agriculture. So this will be the quick win.
Fantastic. I'll move to the last one. And again, I can see, because earlier you spoke about, the solutions for Bharat will come from Bharat. So there are a lot of builders for Bharat here. So, by the people, for the people. You've obviously been involved with rural, not just at NABARD, but in your earlier role, as an RRB chairman as well. What is the one piece of advice you will give to anyone who's building for Bharat in the room?
So, while you embark on building for Bharat, don't think that Bharat is having limitations. Bharat is full of opportunities. But who will capture those opportunities and transform them to a business idea and also wealth creation? So we should not create something. So when we tell about something for the banking sector or the country as a whole or for urban, we feel that we'll develop a full stack and then we'll follow it up with a light version of that. We don't want that. The full stack need to be developed for the rural. So that is where because now masses are there, and I think people will now go move towards other than urban areas. I'm not telling that they may come to rural, but other than urban areas. That means possibilities are huge. We need to now find those possibilities and don't think that it is something which is to be done in a smaller scale. We need to do it in a larger scale. But then we need to scale in a very orderly fashion. That is what we need to go. And then we need to work with the ecosystem. We need to be getting embedded within the ecosystem, not we should come up from outside the ecosystem and build. So we can't build around the ecosystem. We have to work with the ecosystem. That is one thing. And then a lot of friction points are there in the rural areas. First, the most important thing is the trust. It's not properly digitized. That itself creates a sense of mistrust. And somebody who wants to create, or rather some rent-seeking happening means some sort of moral hazard issues also will be there. So the trust need to be developed. And that trust can be developed through data only. So that information asymmetry, in any credit, the problem is that the information asymmetry, because borrower knows better about himself than the lender. At least the lender should know at least some 60 to 70% of what the borrower knows. If that happens, then the credit asymmetry can be bridged, and then trust will develop. So then there are a lot of frictions around credit. There are frictions around commerce. And then there are frictions because of the climate issues here. So all these frictions need to be smoothened. And for all these frictions, the credit, the commerce, the climate, and the trust, all these things need digital solutions. And that too in massive scale, because we're dealing with almost 60% of the Indian population, which is a very huge number. So that means we need to scale up faster. We need to develop within the ecosystem, not around it. We need to now find solutions for the friction points. And then we need to be sure about what we are doing. For that, we understand that innovators alone may not be able to do. We need some ecosystem player, and that is what NABARD is there. So NABARD will provide you the platform. Whatever I said, whether it be Rural Collab or these Sahakar Sarathi, all these things are ecosystem things. And we are also developing data in climate resilient agriculture. We are actually digitizing the whole agricultural value chain. You can make use of that, create solutions for that. As I said, we need not create light solutions. We need full stack solutions. If you do that, we are there to support you.
I actually came across a stat somewhere which said that we have 450 million internet users in rural India using for 90 minutes a day. Yeah. Just for context, that is more than the entire population of USA. So as you said, there is a lot of market.
And data is cheap also. Data is cheap, unlike in the US.
Exactly. So looking forward to the next decade, as we saw in the topic in terms of, lending 2.0. And thank you so much. This has been a very fascinating conversation. And thank you to the audience for, being a very wonderful audience. Thank you so much.
Thanks.